I finally found a flying V which is comfortable for me, at least playing standing up. It is the Edwards E-FV-125D. It is one of the last ones produced before these got discontinued. Made in July of this year, and it's extremely light and thin. To make it even more interesting, I'm gonna do a small comparison between the Edwards and the inspired by Gibson Epiphone Flying V. A good friend of mine is gonna play through both, and I'm gonna put them side by side. If you go in the Japanese ESP website, you will see a couple of brands: ESP, Navigator, E2, Grassroots, LTD, and Edwards. The Edwards guitars are specifically made for the Japanese market and include shapes like the Flying V, the Les Paul, and Explorer, which are not in violation with the Gibson trademark because it does not apply to the Japanese market. However, if you check them out, the Les Pauls, the Explorers, the Flying Vs, you will notice that all of them are discontinued. This is not because of the recent Gibson lawsuits, it is believed to be because of the availability of Seymour Duncan pickups that most of these guitars come with. You can find more information about this in my review of the LP130 CD in the John Sykes variation. I've recently reviewed the EX125D in the beautiful Nevada brown finish. I strongly suggest you check out this video to have a better understanding where the ED serial number Edwards guitars are made. They are made in the Jixi factory located in China, at least the woodwork, then they are shipped to Tokyo, Japan, where the finishing touches like the setup, electronics, etc. are done. I'm gonna link that video above. In this video, I'm gonna review the E-FV-125D in the only available finish, Satin Cloudy Black. Recently a friend of mine got the E-FV-120D in the beautiful cherry finish, so I'm gonna review that as well soon. Back to the 125D, I'm gonna leave you some time on screen with the official specs. And again, I'm explaining it is called the 125D, and usually these models are called like that because of the price, which is 125,000 yen before tax. I wanna give a special shout out to Viking Music in Finland. This is a shop where I bought the Edwards Flying V from. They have some amazing stuff in stock over there, some LTD guitars, and what's interesting, they have a lot of Alexi Edwards signatures that I really want to try. The white one, the black and yellow one. They even have a brand new Edwards Les Paul John Sykes, like the one that I reviewed, but brand new, unmodified. These guys even have the Gibson Adam Jones aged and signed signature. It's crazy. These are not gonna get cheaper. This is not a sponsored video, it's me expressing my gratitude towards them. Because you see, I had a small hiccup with my funds. I've recently sold the ESP Snakebite, it went to Finland coincidentally. The guy got it, was happy with it, left me a 5-star feedback, but the delivery company did not mark it as delivered, so PayPal held my funds for a month. Viking Music had 2 of these brand new in stock, and they understood my situation and were kind enough to save one for me. Coincidentally, the second Flying V they had also came to my country. A friend of mine bought it and already modified it. I specifically asked the guys at Viking Music to give me one that it's unopened, that came from Japan as is. They even offered to do a setup with a brand and gauge of strings of my choice. But I wanted to see how these come set from the Japanese factory. On the box we see the model, the serial number, and a name. I'm not gonna try to pronounce it because I'm gonna get it wrong. It is probably the official distributor for Finland, which sells to dealers like Viking Music, and they have brands like Chapman, ESP, Saito, Stack, Sur, Tokai, Exotic, and are located in Helsinki and other cities. I usually don't mind working with dealers if the price is right, because you get special treatment like the one that Viking Music gave to me. This is how the Flying V comes packed straight from the Japanese factory. Nothing out of the ordinary, same packing job that I'm used to seeing on LTD guitars. The box is bigger because it's a Flying V. It has these labels that I'm gonna unfold and see if we can get some information out of them. Well, there you go, a Tokyo address overseas department by ESP. Apparently ESP sells these to distributors in Finland, so I have to do some diggings to figure out how is this possible. Hopefully next time I will have some answers when I'm reviewing the Cherry 120D. The 125D is shockingly light. The first time I picked it up I was extremely surprised. It shouldn't come as a surprise if you read the specs and seen that the body is only 33mm thick. It's not only the thickness, the mahogany selected for this V is light, but the sound is heavy thanks to the Seymour Duncan Blackouts. The lightweight flying V came right on time because I unfortunately injured my back, and I could barely stand up, let alone hold a guitar. Imagine my surprise when I was able to effortlessly play this standing up. And it was a pleasant surprise indeed, after struggling last week with the Alexi LTD. Comfort for me is a combination of many things. Some of them I cannot sacrifice, like I need the fixed bridge, I need the thin neck profile. I prefer hollower pickups on a mahogany body. If I have all of these, I can live with the V-shape and not having an ebony fingerboard. Boy oh boy, did the Edwards deliver. It is one of the best flying Vs that I have ever tried. It made me curious whether I would like its brother, the 120D, but I guess we'll see sometime next month. As I mentioned earlier, the Les Paul, the Explorer and V-shapes are discontinued from Edwards. Probably not many of these left in dealers, some of them will pop up secondhand in Reverb and other websites, but demand for them is rising right now. Two of my friends wanted the 125D, one of them got it. The other friend bought the 120D in cherry finish that I'm gonna review, so I was lucky to get the other one. I almost didn't buy one, but a friend of mine who owns the white snake bite that I reviewed wanted to get it, and I'm glad he did. I bought it for him. The specs: we have a mahogany body, 33mm, and I'm gonna put this to the test, I'm gonna measure it. Mahogany neck with a set neck construction, Powell ferro fingerboard with 22 extra jumbo frets. Then we got a bone nut, Goto tuners, Seymour Duncan Blackout set of pickups. Goto bridge and tailpiece, master volume, master tone, 3-way switch. Simplicity at its best. Check this out, I'm holding it with minimum effort even though my back is injured. Light as a feather. Neck pickup cavity, we can see the neck joint and the length that it extends to. You might think that it's not a long neck tenon, but look at where the neck joint is. This is a long neck tenon and it's usual for V or Explorer shaped guitars. We have a quick connect with the routing for the pickup. Same with the bridge pickup cavity. Probably some shooting paint, but I cannot tell because of the color. Excellent routing work by the Jixi Chinese factory. Look at this thing, it's featherweight, I can do this all day, I can hold it up all day. It comes with a set of active Seymour Duncan pickups. EHB-1N, made in the end of 2021. There's something I didn't realize about the Blackouts. The casing of the pickup is made out of plastic and the legs are made out of plastic, so they have these metal inserts for the bolts to catch on. Last week I reviewed the LTD Alexi and I thought only affordable pickups are made out of plastic. Apparently the Blackouts use plastic too and are not cheap. I'm just used to seeing metal caps with metal legs on some EMG pickups. This is the bridge pickup, designated AHB1B for bridge. Same date, made in the end of 2021, November. Black, flat, slanted pickup rings. Since I haven't shown you any pickup ring screws for a long time now, here they are: short for the front, long for the back pickup. The Blackouts are hot as expected from active pickups. The bridge is at 21.8. The neck, settle down, 21.8, exactly the same. Middle position, 19.7. The bridge and tailpiece are black, made by Goto in Japan. The exact numbers you can find in the specifications at the beginning of the video. The bridge is metric, thumb wheel and screwdriver adjustable. As I already mentioned, this guitar came unopened, like it was packed from the Japanese factory with the original Japanese setup. Even though it was made in China, the final setup is done in Tokyo and it was superb. I'm gonna do my best to save it. The tailpiece is also black, made by Goto, and it has some sort of oil or something like that I'm used to seeing on guns. I'm guessing that it was applied during installation, so later the workers can do a setup without dealing any scratches when rotating the struts. It was a surprise for me that Edwards uses elixir strings and nano webs in particular. The way you know these are nano webs is that if you look at the strings, you see there after the bow it's flaking. This sort of flaking is the nano web finish. You usually flake where you attack with the pick. It is the nano web because the nano web has the coating. The Opti web doesn't have a coating. They're long lasting without coating. I'm gonna save these because they're gonna last the owner like 2, 3, 4 to 6 months. I use elixir nano webs on my personal guitars, but in the 946 gauge. The control knobs are black knurled metal fixed in place by an Allen bolt. You got 2 of them, the master volume, master tone, and then there's the 3-way switch. The finish is called Satin Cloudy Black and it's susceptible to fingerprints, as you can probably see. You got the Pau Ferro fingerboard on a mahogany neck with a set neck construction, and at first I thought these were steel frets because ESP and LTD are using steel frets for 2022. I had to be sure, so I asked my guitar tech Gramchev and he said that they do look like steel, but they're not. I'm usually not a fan of Pau Ferro fingerboards, but this one is quite beautiful with some dark streaks near the high strings. Looks quite nice and feels nice, has pearloid dot inlays, and on the side of it you have white side dot inlays. Moving on to the nut, which is another pleasant surprise. It is made out of bone. Even Gibson custom shop guitars like the VOS and stuff like that don't have a bone nut these days, so it's surprising to see them on an Edwards. This is what the truss rod cavity looks like, same on the Edwards Explorer that I reviewed, same on the Iron Cross ESP custom shop that I have. Unlike the LTD guitars, this has a one-way adjustable truss rod. The only way you can tell that this is an Edwards is by the truss rod cover. I think ESP are doing this intentionally, so if you don't want people to know that this is an Edwards, you can simply remove the truss rod cover and there are no logos on the guitar. Let me try and put things into perspective. Here's the Edwards and the Epiphone inspired by Gibson V. Even though these two are V-shaped, they feel, play and are quite different. There's no volute near the headstock of the Epiphone and the headstock itself is bigger. And check out the thin body of the Edwards next to the Epiphone. It is time to measure. This is by far the narrowest nut that I've ever measured at 40.5mm, and if you measure after it, it's even narrower at 40.2. Back to normal at the 12th fret, 51.5mm or 2.02 inches. I was surprised that the neck measures kind of chunky, but it doesn't feel like it at 22mm, but remember the volute is over there. So if you measure a little after it, or even on the 2nd fret for example, you get thinner, 21mm or 0.82 inch. Another surprise for me, the 12th fret is at 23.2mm, but it sure doesn't feel like a thick neck. I guess the profile is pretty good. Now for the most important measurement, is the body 33mm, and it is 1.29 inch. I wanted to compare it to the Epiphone, which measures at 42.2mm or 1.66 inch. The fingerboard radius is a solid 305mm or 12 inches, just the way I like it. Here's the neck profile. It's a combination between a U and a C shape, somewhere in between. I know that it measured thick, there's a volute and everything, but I swear to God, this doesn't feel like a chunky thick neck. This feels like the thinnest possible neck that I have ever tried. It's extremely comfortable, and this comes from someone who's playing 60 style Les Paul custom necks. Back of the Edwards with a set neck construction that almost looks like a set through neck. Then there's the electronics compartment and the 9V battery compartment. Even though the initial woodwork is made in the Jixi China factory, it is absolutely perfect. I have no complaints at all. The finishing touches like the hardware installation, the plastics and setup was done by the Japanese guys, and it's immaculate. Every EG serial number Edwards that I've reviewed so far is like that. Now for the electronics, you have a volume, a tone with a small capacitor, the routing for the pickups. And look at the 3-way switch. The body is 33mm thick, remember, so they had to use the L-shaped angle one that I used on V and Explorers or HGs. Basically guitars with thinner bodies. This is the 9V battery compartment. The only place that we can kind of see the color of the mahogany underneath the paint. I'm gonna show it to you guys from another angle in a second. I'm not entirely sure what the brand of the 9V battery is. It doesn't matter, I'm not gonna unwrap it because it's so neatly packed and it fits snugly in the cavity. The output jack is located here near the lower horn, and it's the only chrome thing on the guitar besides the 3-way switch. Here's the electronics cavity from another angle, and here's the 9-volt battery cavity. I'm not sure why they made 2 holes. Apparently one goes to the electronics cavity, the other goes to the output jack. Probably for grounding purposes if you exchange pickups or something like that, but I'm not entirely sure. I've seen other guitars being pre-routed with the idea of changing pickups later on. This is what the output jack looks like. It's not on a quick connect system. I didn't want to pull it too much out of the guitar not to break any of the cables. The Japanese never cease to amaze me with their plastic work and the way they wrap these. I almost thought that there was no wrap on it, and look at the way they made the insulation from the bottom. This is so satisfying. The plastics and the shielding are made to perfection. If this was Epiphone, it would have been like, it's on there. These are the original strap buttons, one here and one on the top horn. I'm gonna be replacing both of these with Schallers. On the right you see the original button, and the bolt on the left is the old model of Schallers. Here are the Schallers on the guitar, and I actually like a little bit of a chrome accent because of the output jack. This is what the set neck joint looks like. Flush with the body, Edwards almost made it to look like a set through neck construction. Satin cloudy black finish on the back of the neck, and a volute near the headstock, and remember this is 40mm right here, so it's extremely comfortable for me. I've never felt something like this before. Easily one of the most comfortable necks that I have ever tried. Not much going on the back of the headstock. You have the Made in Japan, which is a sticker, and no surprise it's a sticker because this has an ED serial number, so it's made in Jixi, the Chinese factory, then transported to Japan where all of the hardware, electronics, setup are done. So this is initially made in China and finished in Japan. It was completed in June 2022, making it one of the last guitars to come out of the Jixi and Tokyo factories. As of this moment, they are discontinued. They come with Japanese-made Goto tuners. You can see the exact model in the beginning of the video under the specs. You have Japan written all over these here on the bottom side, and if you flip it around, it says Made in Japan, proudly Goto. I'm gonna weigh one of these just to have it as a future reference. Here it is with the nut and washer. It weighs exactly 32 grams, which is a pretty usual weight for this sort of tuners. Now let's weigh the Goto bridge. Again, pretty usual, 54 grams. Look at how light the Edwards V is at 5.27 pounds. Only a Traveler guitar is lighter than it. Even compared to the already light Epiphone inspired by Gibson Flying V, which is 6.76 pounds. Feels a lot more heavier than the Edwards. Next up, I'm gonna have a good friend of mine demonstrate both guitars. He owns and had owned a lot of V-shaped guitars like Edwards, the other model, Epiphones, Gibsons, etc. And here's a quick disclaimer, on this video I'm gonna use the typical settings on my VH4 that I use for every other video except on channel 1. Almost all of my video demonstrations so far are with these settings. Sometimes I back up the gain a little bit if they are active pickups, sometimes I boost it a little bit if they are pro-buckers like on the Epiphone. They're pretty soft sounding, especially if compared to something like the active Seymour Duncan Blackouts, which are really high output. I'm gonna leave the third channel as usually it is for the rhythm section, and then we're gonna demonstrate some clean, and I've actually backed down a lot from the clean. Usually I'm like this. I had to back it all the way down here because the blackouts were overloading my mic. So I had to back down because of the blackouts, and you're gonna hear it when the Epiphone is playing with the pro-buckers. It's like 8 kilo ohms versus 20 for the blackouts. After the clean, he's gonna demonstrate some lead with a delay. Let's go! Amazing job by Edwards. Even though these are not cheap, they are nearly $1,000. I ended up paying more because I'm in Europe, around the 1,300-400 ballpark, but it's worth it. It feels great, sounds great, plays great, it's featherweight light. I cannot think of anything more that I would like from a V. A couple of people that saw it in the shop noted that it is a bit too plain to be costing that much, but trust me, it's worth it. If you go to the Edwards website, you will probably notice that the 125D costs more than the 120, which is thicker and has a pickguard and more stuff on it. In my humble personal opinion, the Edwards blows the Epiphone out of the water easily. Yeah, I know it costs almost twice as much as the Epiphone, but I'm pretty sure that it will give a hard time to even the Gibson Flying V. So to wrap things up, if you're on the market for a Flying V, you want a light one that sounds heavy and it's reasonably priced, there's your V, the 125D Edwards. If you see one of these on the second-hand market, don't hesitate because someone will surely grab it before you do. I know I would.